Hey everybody, it's Peter from Brantford Kia, and welcome to our live video series. So it is Monday, September 21st. We've got a lot of stuff going on this week, but this video kind of came about very quickly for me. I found out that we have this car in stock, which is a Nero 2020 Nero Hybrid, and you guys have been asking for this video for a long time. So real quick, we're going to do hybrid versus PHEV versus EV. If you're just watching and you're not watching live with us, feel free to skip ahead to the 3 minute mark. That's where we'll get going. If you want to know how to join us weekdays for our live coverage, let me show you how to do that. Just jump over here. We're going to go walk over to my computer screen. You guys are probably already on YouTube unless this video is embedded somewhere else, which sometimes happens. So head over to YouTube, search for Brantford Kia. So just search for Brantford Kia right there in the search bar at YouTube. Where's my mouse? There we go. So you'll just search up right here or on your phone or whatever way you want to do that. If you refresh the page exactly at 2 o'clock, which is what we're doing now, one of two things happens. Sometimes our live video is right here. If you don't see it there, we just click this videos tab, whatever way you're going to do it, click the videos tab, and you can jump through. And the very first video that says live now is our live video. You can jump in there. Oh, we get to watch an ad today for Golf Simcoe County in beautiful Breaker. You should definitely come golf in the area. Beautiful area to go golfing. As much as I want to earn all kinds of money. Oh, I can't even skip the video. Oh boy, there you go. Experience. There you go. So they ran a free ad. You get to watch it there. Okay, we're gonna skip ahead. It's here. Let me just scroll through. Okay, so real quickly, let me just cover the news for the week. Before we get to that 3 minute mark, you guys are asking about Teddy. Those of you who wonder what the heck are we talking about, I have a huge teddy bear. I used to have a huge teddy bear. I used to measure trunk space in that, so you could compare any one of our videos and you could find teddy bear and you could see trunk space differences. Teddy's gone missing. I checked the last video he was in. He's not in that car. Somebody has my teddy bear. I'm a little upset about it. So Teddy's gone. Real quick, tomorrow I'm allowed to talk about the 2021 Kia Sorento. I have been trained on that vehicle. I understand it. I've asked the questions from the people that I need to ask. I know quite a bit, but I haven't seen it yet. Now, until I see a vehicle, I don't know it as well as I would like to. But we can talk about Teddy. You guys are, I'm reading your comments as I'm talking here. We can talk about the 2021 Kia Sorento tomorrow. So we'll probably be doing that tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Just so you can hear about what's going on in Canada. There is a US introduction online tomorrow. I'm not sure what time it is, but we will be doing a talk about the Sorento tomorrow. So, yeah, you guys, my regulars are reminding me, don't forget the keys. The good news is I left the keys in these vehicles today, so we're good that way. What else is going on? K5 still should be showing up. If you want to order a K5 or a Sorento, we can do that for you. So 2021 Sorento. And of course, you got a whole bunch of stuff going on. All right, 3 minutes in, let's talk about things real quick. Real quick, if you've never watched us before, Brantford Kia is what you're watching. We are in Brantford, Ontario. We are a leader in electric vehicles. Certainly, we try to be a leader in information. Right now, I'm just going to make a pitch to earn your subscription. We do videos on lots of stuff. We do live videos every day. We do regular videos as well. I want to earn your subscription, especially if you're an EV interested person. What we've got in front of us is a hybrid Nero, a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and an electric vehicle. You won't find many dealerships in the country that stock these. We have actually the Nero was the hardest one we had to get. We've got several PHEVs in stock. We've got several Neros in stock, both the EX and the SX Nero. We've got several Kia Soul EVs, the short range and the long range Soul, so the premium and the luxury. If you're looking for an electric vehicle, it used to be this big long wait. Any one of these vehicles, you can pick them up today, go home with it. Other than getting them licensed, you probably have to come in the morning for us to get licensed that same day. But the point is, there's no more wait time for these. These are class-leading vehicles in every way. But the one question I get asked, the one thing I get told to do on video is let's talk about why should I buy a hybrid, why should I buy a PHEV, and why should I buy an EV? And sometimes people are saying, oh, I want an EV, but really the hybrid's the best car for them. So we're going to talk about why the hybrid might be best for you, why the PHEV might be best for you, and why the EV may be best for you. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. You can direct me a little bit. You can ask your questions. I'll go around and answer your questions. I'm going to spend a little bit less time today talking about the trim lines of each of these vehicles, just because that's sort of another video, and I want to do these videos again in the future. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, we will be going into trim lines and all kinds of things on video, shorter form and longer form. One other way to follow me, again, I don't really worry too much if you follow me on Instagram, but it's just a way to keep up with what I'm doing. On Instagram, at Peter_Brantford_Kia. I usually post a video mid-morning or a picture mid-morning of what I'm going to put on video that afternoon. Today I was a little late doing that, but I always post a story in the morning. So we're going to have a little bit of a plan here of what we're doing in the next week or two. I often take your suggestions on Instagram, and sometimes you can suggest something in the morning, and I'll scrap what I'm doing and do something in the afternoon just because you've asked. So just something to keep in mind. All right, we're gonna get going here. 13 people on. 6 people have given me a like, so 12 people. I already lost somebody. If anybody wants to give me a like throughout this video, likes are nice. You guys know how YouTube works. It also helps my bosses know that you guys are engaged with me. I did receive a nice phone call from a gentleman in the United States today. Told me I was doing a great job, so that felt kind of nice. Yeah. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. I am an EV buyer, EV owner. I've owned an EV for a year now. Mine happens to be the Kia Soul EV. The Soul is available in a gasoline engine or a pure electric vehicle. The Nero, on the other hand, is available in a hybrid, in a PHEV, and in an electric vehicle. So we're going to talk real quickly. What is a hybrid? What is a PHEV? What is an EV? Hybrid car has a gasoline engine, has a small battery. You only fill it with gas. You don't have to plug it in ever. In fact, you cannot plug it in ever. What it does is it has a computer inside that controls the electric motor and the gasoline motor, and it just uses the electric motor to assist you in getting you great fuel efficiency. So sometimes it will run on purely electric power on its own. Sometimes it will blend the gasoline and the electric together. But this is a car where if you've driven a gasoline vehicle, there's no thinking involved. The only thing that's kind of weird is when you get in and start the car, you don't always hear the engine running. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But there's no real thinking, and it will always work. It tells you it's green and ready to go. We'll show you that in a couple minutes here. But that is a hybrid vehicle. There's no plug. You can drive all day long. The reason people buy a hybrid vehicle, especially something like the Kia Niro, the reason you buy that vehicle is basically you like a crossover vehicle like this Niro, but you want better fuel efficiency. So this one, in many people's cases, is going to be half the fuel use of a regular crossover vehicle. So that is a hybrid. Now let's step over to the plug-in hybrid. These are relatively new, not that new, a little bit more rare, but what's going to happen, you're going to find, is a lot of vehicles, including the vehicle that you drive, the next generations, are going to be plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. So we just described a hybrid, so you know what a hybrid is. This is the same thing. The difference is this one has a little bit bigger battery, a little bit more powerful electric motor, and you can plug this car in and control when you use that electric motor. So what this particular car does is just over 40 kilometers or so, it gives you 40 kilometers or so of pure electric range. In other words, gasoline motor off, electric range. What that does is for someone like myself, I could go to work and back every single day and never turn on the gasoline engine, in theory. We're going to talk about some of the things that do turn on the gasoline engine. But the idea being, I can drive to work and back. I can do my running around town. I live and work in the same town. It can go highway speeds on pure electric power, but you're going to get around 40 or so kilometers. And then after that 40, 45 kilometers of range, it switches over to a hybrid, which, as you know, already uses about half the gas of a regular car. So you get that first 40 or so kilometers of super cheap electric power, and then you switch over to a car that's still going to be probably half the fuel use or even better compared to your regular car. So plug-in hybrid vehicle makes a ton of sense for a lot of people, and that's really where I think a lot of things are going in the mainstream cars. A lot of your next cars are going to be at least available as a plug-in hybrid. So think about that for a second. That makes a ton of sense. And of course, no range anxiety with either of these cars. You go to a gas station, you fill it up, you keep going. And does a hybrid and PHEV get the interior green plates? Yes. So we'll talk about green plates in a second. Moving on now, full electric vehicle. I think most people have a general sense of what these are. The a full electric vehicle, no gasoline engine, no oil changes, none of that gasoline engine maintenance, transmission maintenance, those kind of things. That's all gone now. You have a limited range. So this one's rated at 385 kilometers of range. Many of our EV buyers, Nero EV, 425, 450, 480 is really common on these cars of EV range in the summer weather. And we have several customers that are getting over 500 kilometers all summer long on a regular basis. So that is pure electric charge. You can quick charge this car. The other cars you can't quick charge, but you can quick charge this car 80% in just over an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a bit, and get 80% of your power back. So My parents own one of these cars. They do a trip to Florida. They can drive 300, even up to 400 kilometers, stop for lunch for about an hour and a bit, get 80% of that charge back, do another 300 kilometers of real world range, stop for dinner, and if they want to go further, they can. They've decided not to. So a lot of people will replace their gasoline vehicle with a car like this. Yes, my dad, exactly. They said 527 kilometers range. I think he's actually 527. He's had to be consistently over 500 is pretty common for my dad, as well as some of our other Nero EV buyers. But like I said, 425, 450, 480, pretty common stuff of real world range in nicer temperatures in this car. Now, temperatures matter when you're buying these cars. All three of these cars are going to get a little bit worse efficiency in the winter. And spoiler alert, your gasoline car will also get worse mileage. Now, there's a couple differences of what happens here. First of all, the hybrid and the EV right here. When you need to turn on the heat, you are going to need to use a gasoline engine at least a little bit. If you need a lot of heat, both these are going to run their gasoline engines. That's going to use a little more. Now you have things, we're going to hop in these cars in a couple seconds here. You have things that can keep you going, that can help you out, specifically on this car and that car, that will help you out in that situation. But you are going to use a little bit more gasoline in the winter. Now keep in mind, there's still hybrid vehicles, even when the gasoline engine's running. So gasoline engine running, you're still going to get great fuel mileage compared to a regular gasoline car. So we'll talk about that in a second. Now, an EV, any battery car, the battery loses some efficiency in the cooler temperatures. And you also have the heat. Now, the EV does have an electric heater, obviously. This particular model has an electric heater and it can recapture regenerative braking. So we're going to talk about regenerative braking for a second, and then we're going to hop in the cars. Just so you all know, this is going to be a half an hour video or so. We'll stick around beyond half an hour if you have questions, but we're going to cover the information in a half an hour. So we're 12 minutes in. The EV does have electric heater and it recaptures your regenerative braking. This particular model can recapture that regenerative braking. And what that means is your regenerative braking creates some heat. We'll talk about what regenerative braking is in just a second here, but it creates heat. Instead of letting that heat go to waste, it can capture that heat, send it through the vents, and instead of using your electric heater, you can use that heat captured from regenerative braking to help assist in battery life. Some of our people that are getting long range in the winter are staying at or above that 385 kilometers of rated range in the winter. You can expect to see a little bit less. Certainly staying over 300 shouldn't be difficult for most EV buyers. This is real world stuff, so it's a little difficult to rate, but keep in mind, fast charging, there's a whole bunch of things you can do to keep going, and that is on this car. All right, let's talk regenerative braking. All three of these cars have regenerative braking. Basically, what that means is because they have electric motors, that electric motor can be used to power the car to go forward, but it can also sense when the wheel is pushing it. If you ever use those wind-up flashlights, I'm a big camper, you can get those wind-up flashlights that can charge a battery. Same type of idea. As soon as you're not using the battery to power the car can power the battery, if that makes any sense. So if coasting, you're going to be charging the battery. If you're braking, you're going to be charging the battery. Now, on these two cars right here, just coasting and using your brake pedal is the only way to recharge those batteries. Well, in addition to plugging this one in, but as you're driving, that regenerative braking, coasting and braking. In this particular car, we have things that look like paddle shifters, where you can change that aggressiveness of that regenerative braking. So you can let off the throttle pedal. We don't call it a gas pedal anymore in this car. You can let off the throttle pedal, and it can brake you a little bit. It can brake you a lot, or it can brake a lot more. So there's three levels. There's actually technically a few more. We'll talk about that in a separate video. But officially 3 levels of regenerative braking on this car, which means as you coast, you can generate more, but you'll also have more aggressive braking before you touch your brake pedal. The rest of these cars, they drive like regular gas cars. When you let off the gas, it coasts for a little bit, you touch your brake, and it uses that. So you can adjust that on the EV. If you have more questions, we'll talk about that in a second. But more importantly, let's jump in these cars. Now, again, we're not talking so much trim levels today. We're just going to talk about some of the hybrid type things, plug-in hybrid type things, and EV type things. I'd be happy to talk trim levels in another video, but feel free to ask questions if you want. I will get to your questions in a second here. Now, because this is an EV, usually what I do is oh, never mind. Can't do it. I tried to start it up, but it does require a little bit of gasoline right now. So remember I said it decides on its own when it needs its gasoline engine. So I've turned the car to on, but I have not. Oh, it needs some fuel. Look at that. I've turned the car to on, but I have not started it. So this would be the same as turning your key, to the on position, but not starting the car. Just going to turn the climate off for a second. All right. So what you have on the left side is your range, distance to empty. This is a 45-liter tank. In theory, you could get up to 1,000 kilometers. In reality, you're not going to get that much. 800 kilometers plus on this tank is pretty common. So you're going to see your range there. See the little gauge over here? It has charge, eco, and power. As I'm driving, if I'm using the gas pedal, it's going to be in this eco range. If I really give it a heavy gas, it's going to be in that power range. As I let off, you're going to see it go into the charge range right here. And as you brake, it's going to go in deeper into the charge range. So you're going to get a sense of what you're putting back into the tank, or back into the battery, excuse me, and back into the car. So you have some information there. But again, gasoline motor, gasoline engine. And EV is fully electric PHEV. Yeah, exactly. So we'll jump into that in a second. Typical Kia stuff over here. This one happens to have the 8-inch screen. You can get the bigger 10 and a quarter inch screen here. Automatic climate control is standard on a hybrid, and that is part of the hybrid system. One thing that I mentioned in these cars is you have a driver only mode. On the EV and PHEV, that's going to make a difference to staying on that EV mode. On the electric vehicle, purely electric vehicle, no gasoline engine, it might save you a kilometer, maybe 2 kilometers range. It's not really worth doing. On this particular car, if you're alone in the car, once the car is up to temperature, down to temperature, throw that on and it'll work with you to help it drive a little bit extra in electric mode. Our EVs, you got a little wireless phone charger down here. These EVs, the PHEV and this hybrid, they have a automatic transmission, which is a 6-speed dual clutch transmission. So you can put it in drive, drop it in drive. You can shift it on your own if you want. But unlike the CVTs of most other hybrids, in fact, I think every other hybrid, this one has gear shift changes, and that's fine. It makes it a little sporty. To be clear, this is not a sporty driving car. It's got good amount of torque, 195 foot-pounds of torque, but it's sort of set up for efficiency. So if you're buying a hybrid, you're probably driving for efficiency most of the time. It's not a super slouch, but it's designed to be efficient. And that's kind of the basics in this car. So while we have that fresh in our heads, let's jump over to the PHEV, and then we'll go EV, and then I'll take your questions. I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you. 23 of you are on right now. I've got 11 likes from you, the 23 of you. I was just hoping to get a couple more, if that's cool with you guys. If not, I understand. Tough crowd today. I get it. All right, so let's do the same thing with this one. Now, this one, we're going to try to turn the car right on. Foot on the brake, car is on. You'll notice the gasoline engine will not start. On occasion, even if you want it to be an EV, it will start the vehicle. And that's because it will do its thing to take care of the gasoline motor. It needs some maintenance there. You have to have the gasoline motor run itself, and it sometimes will overrule you. But generally speaking, if you're in the EV mode, you can see that it says EV right there. It is set to run as an EV. Now, this is one of the best dashes we have. Yeah, the cluster on the left side. So the blue range here, you guys are writing and I can't see my things. Anyways, the blue range there is the electric range. You can see I got about 22 kilometers. It's going to be about 40 or more kilometers of range. 40 to 45 is a typical. The white is the hybrid only battery. So you can charge that blue by plugging it in. That white one is just the one that's going to run when you run. Now, in this particular car, it is essentially a better hybrid than our hybrids. That makes some sense to some people, but it's got more powerful motor, bigger battery, and it just seems to run as a better hybrid. To me, I can eke out more efficiency in this even without electric range. Keep in mind, you have that electric range. Same thing over here with that power gauge, eco, and charge gauge. You'll see a digital display go up into the power when you're rough, aggressive with it, eco in the normal driving, and when you brake, it'll go in, or just decelerate, it'll go in the charge. So same information there. You do have a tachometer on the right side there, speedometer and fuel gauge on the right as well. Check this out when I put it in drive, tap into sport mode. Hey, engine starts, but look at that. Pretty cool display. So I'm just going to turn it off because I don't want to gas everybody out. But that's kind of a cool thing is you've got the, let me turn it back on here. You do have that pretty good display, and I think this is one of the best uses of that digital display in any of our cars. Moving over here, again, the 8-inch display happens to be in this car. You can get 10 and a quarter inch display, which we'll see in 1 second. Down here, same exact thing. You still have the driver only mode here, automatic climate control. It is a dual zone automatic climate control, so you can set different temperatures. This little button allows you to choose EV now or hybrid electric vehicle. So electric vehicle or hybrid electric vehicle. What that does is actually pretty interesting. Let's say I live here in Brantford and I'm driving to downtown Toronto where it's notoriously bad for traffic. Well, I might want to drive my hybrid car, so gasoline and electric mix, between here and Toronto because I get pretty good efficiency driving on the highway, that kind of thing. But when I get to downtown Toronto, I'm going to drive around the slow city streets or do other things, or even on the highway in Toronto. I can save my EV range for when I want to use it, and that's what that button does. It switches it out of the EV to the plug-in hybrid, which saves that electric range, allows you to use it there. So the other thing that's kind of cool: heated seats, ventilated seats, and higher trim levels. But heated seats, heated steering wheel. Remember, I said the heat is a draw on the battery at times. It draws in the gasoline engine as well. So you can stay pretty comfortable with your rump roasters, heated steering wheel. You can run your heat maybe a little bit less, and that'll help you use the gas engine a little bit less. Smart cruise control standard in this car as well. Talk about that later. But again, we're not talking trim level. So there's your basics here. Now let's jump over to the EV for a second. Again, lots more to show you as far as trim lines and options. Forgetting just the fact that these are cool because they're electric and that kind of thing. These cars are class leading in some of their features. You'll blow you away. Several of them can steer on their own, keep you centered in the lane, very intuitive. Brake on their own. The smart cruise control is amazing. All right, now we're in a full electric vehicle. Same thing. Foot on the brake, hit the start button. Similar dash here. I personally prefer the PHEV. I think they do a better job in that car. But I'm not going to complain at all. I'm just going to turn the radio off. I'm going to turn the climate off for a second. So 441 of range, you can see. Actually, let's just go over here and see what we've actually got for range. Okay, let it load for a second. This is a brand new car, so it is doing a little bit of loading here that would not normally do. Okay, jump in here. We're going to look at the 94% is 441 kilometers of range. Let's just see what it would have been if it's full. Full is 466 kilometers. So when I said that 420 to 480 is pretty common, 466 is what this car will be when it's full right now. And you can see I've got 441. So real world range in this car. I know a lot of people talk about rated range. Kia is very careful about the rated range compared to some other manufacturers. You do very, very well with real world range in this car. All right, coming in here, we're going to take your questions in a second here, but you can see the gauges are a little bit different. They do customize a little bit in drive modes. The big thing I want to show you is, again, nice display in the center, tons of information that can be found in there. What I want to show you is the braking right here. Those paddle shifters, that's where they are. I don't know if you can see them there, are not paddle shifters on this car. They increase the regenerative braking, or in this case, decrease the regenerative braking. What that means is when I let off the throttle pedal, the car decelerates, which is common. You can make it mostly coast. You can make it decelerate a little bit more, or quite a lot, depending on the three levels here. Now, I have to put it in gear, and I don't know if it'll work. Yeah, you can see it there. Now, this one's pretty cool. It's set to auto. Now, I'm going to tap the paddle shifter right here and watch that display, top right corner. Top right corner is now 3. Now, I'm going to tap the other paddle shifter. So again, I'm on the paddle shifter on this side here. I'm going to tap that right there in a second. Watch that display. It says auto there beside the 15. Now I got 2, 1, 0. So you've actually got 4. 0, 1. Oops, sorry. Let me switch hands. 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of 4. And technically, if I was to hold this down like that, it will give me a tiny bit more. And some people will use that system to do most of their braking. So you don't have to touch the brake pedal. What they call is one pedal driving. It's the way a lot of Teslas drive. The difference with a Tesla is you can't adjust it on the fly like you can with ours. It changes the way you drive, and it's pretty cool. So if you want to drive like a gas car and coast a lot, no problem. But what you end up doing is you get used to that regenerative braking, and you don't have to hit the brakes as much. The way it was set up with that auto switch is it uses the smart cruise control radar plate out front, and it senses cars in front of you. So if I'm coming up to a stop sign and there's a car already parked there, it will give me a little bit extra. So let's show you in drive again here. Let me show you. Let's just zoom in there. Let's say I have it. Oops. Hold on one second. Let's say I have it set to just that one level of regenerative braking. If there's a car in front of me, it will jump up automatically to 2 or 3. And that display, when instead of being a white battery display, it'll be that bluey color when it sees a car. So you'll know it sees the car and it'll just jump up for you. So it'll give you a little extra braking on your own. which is pretty cool. Again, this is more advanced stuff, but that regenerative braking is different in an EV because you can control it. Down here, remember we talked about the driver only mode? I kind of laugh at Kia because on an EV, it's not going to save you a ton. Here we go, driver only mode. I got 429 as listed with the climate system on. 430. Woohoo! If that's going to be the difference between you making it home or not, you've got bigger problems than freezing or heating your passengers. So I'm just going to turn it off for a second again, just so there's no fan noise. But very cool car. Here you can see here's that 10.25 inch screen. One of the cool things they're doing in the EV and PHEV. I haven't seen this on the Nero yet because I haven't looked in the bigger screen on the Nero. Is they now allow you to choose users. So you can see guest. I can change user between driver 1 or driver 2. What that means is these widgets here can be moved around different ways. Normally this navigation screen is a color or lighter screen, but we're indoors, so it's reading it as darker. If you have something like this set up, you can see that I've got the radio there. I can change it to navigation. I can change it to my battery information, time, compass things, weather information, all kinds of things in here. So you can customize this display in a lot of ways. You've got all kinds of options to throw in there. Android Auto, Apple CarPlay on every one of these cars. So a lot of cool things going on in here. And that 10.25 inch display is pretty cool. Now the 8-inch display is just as good, but you do lose a little bit of that functionality with that 3-panel system and that kind of thing down there. I mentioned ventilated seats. You've got heated and ventilated seats here, rump roasters and ventilation. And this is our gear shift for our electric cars. So kind of simple to use. Drive, neutral, reverse, and I'm going to hit the park button, and that's how that works. So that's our EV alone. Now, I'm sure you have questions. We're 26.5 minutes in. Let me jump over to them and see what you got. I'm just going to turn this car off for a second. Again, lots more to talk about. The Nero as a whole has just been a really popular car for us. People really like that. Seems to be a little bit more popular or a little bit more in demand than the Soul EV. My personal preference is the Soul. That's why I bought it. But the Nero is certainly very popular. So I don't have a great view of the cars here. Bear with me. I just got stand by my computer here. I ran out of space to do this. So let me just take some of your questions here. Jumping up top to the ones I missed early on. You guys are super concerned about Teddy, and I appreciate that. I have no idea where he is. Just so you know, those of you who are joining us late, Teddy Bear is a trunk measurement tool I use, and he is gone. It's a big teddy bear. Okay, most people would suit an EV, but they just don't know it. Okay, so I'll agree with that. So let's just talk one last thing. A lot of people will go for an EV. An EV is not inexpensive. That is the catch. EVs are super well equipped. A lot of people can do with it, but some people aren't ready for that. I couldn't go full EV for all my vehicles, but one of my two is an EV, and that works perfect. Here's why you go with the hybrid. I like my gas car. I just want to save some fuel. Perfect. Done. No range, no complication, no nothing else. That's why you go with this. PHEV, a little bit of a cost up front, but you're going to cut your fuel cost again, potentially in half over this one. So, really, a quarter of maybe your gas car. The ability to drive on pure electric power is pretty cool. You can plug it in at home. You can charge. You don't have to go to charging stations. Again, you can still drive across the country on gas stations, but now you're doing a lot of your driving, including at highway speeds, at an EV on an EV. That 40 kilometers, you'd be amazed how many trips you do that are 40 kilometers or less. And even if there's 70-kilometer trip, the first 40, 45 are going to be pure EV. And then you go to a hybrid, and that hybrid, again, is already crazy more efficient than your regular gas car. So really good option on a PHEV. I would really recommend that to a lot of people. The difference with these two cars versus the last one, you're still doing your oil changes. You're still doing all the maintenance that you would have in a gas car. No real additional maintenance for the hybrid stuff, but all of your regular maintenance for a gas car. An EV is going to save you fuel. It's also going to save you maintenance. It is a whole different world to not have to worry about your kilometers, not have to worry about oil changes. So that's just something to keep in mind. Having gone to an EV, I would have a tough time going back to a PHEV or an EV. Although that being said, a PHEV is a really, really good option because most of your driving is going to be PHEV most of your driving is going to be electric, and then you'll go EV. So again, electric cars are ready for a lot of people, but there's a whole bunch of things involved in that. Okay, real quick. There we go. Tim's on there. Okay, hybrid would definitely. Okay, let me see. Tim's showing mileage things. Yep, 45-liter tank, about 1,000 kilometers potentially. Difference between PHEV and EV. Okay, we jumped on that, I think. K5 arriving. We'll talk about that in a second when we get to past the 30-minute mark, which we're pretty much there. The cluster, the PHEV, yep. 2017 PHEV Optima. Yes, that is an option. I don't think we've ever stocked the PHEV Optima. We sell more of these. Carter says he hasn't paid for gas in over a month. He's probably got a PHEV. That's pretty common. Do you find people drive the hybrid and then realize they don't need the gasoline engine and trade up to a full EV? Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. Um, so what happens is, first of all, people who start driving highway or start driving hybrids, that is what I like to call the gateway drug to a full EV. It really is. Once you start driving a hybrid, you kind of get used to that whole electric thing. Things scare you a little bit less, and then you understand how it works, and then you end up in an EV. If you can swing it, if you know you want to save fuel, I really think you should look at the PHEV. The reasons these don't sell, plain and simple, is people don't drive them. We have had a tremendous difficulty stocking them. You can go across Ontario. There's probably not more than 4 or 5 dealers that are stocking these things. And when I say stocking, I mean they might have one. We've got several in stock. You drive a PHEV, it makes so much sense. It drives like a regular gas car, but then if you want, you just plug it in at home. You only need a regular plug, a regular wall outlet to plug this thing in. You can get a stage 2 charger if you want, but you only need a regular wall outlet in your garage or wherever your home is, even if it's outside your garage. And that car is going to introduce you to electric driving, which is once you go there, you don't really go back. So it really is something where the plain hybrid makes no sense to you. Yeah, so the plain hybrid makes no sense to you, except that it is a less expensive model. So you can get this hybrid for significantly less money than you can the PHEV. But if you're in that price bracket where you can consider the PHEV, I definitely think you should, because, like I said, once you sort of get used to this EV world, you really start to enjoy that PHEV. And the PHEV is a better hybrid as well. In Quebec, they have an extra incentive from the provincial government, and that makes the PHEV less expensive than the hybrid, and then they just sell those ones. In Ontario, it's a little tougher because there is a cost there. So yeah, hybrid, getting used to running on pure electric, and this car will run on pure electric. You'll drive around 60 kilometers an hour, and you'll find the engine's not running for significant portions of time. But that's kind of a cool way to get used to things. And again, you're saving compared to something in this class, in that small crossover class. You're using half the fuel here. There, you could be using as little as a quarter. You could be using less than that. When you start looking at the way you drive. EV is, again, a different story. So hopefully I'm not boring anybody too much. Hopefully that helps. Let's keep going here, see other questions here. Regenerative braking is not meant for highway usage. 100% wrong. Regenerative braking is used all the time. The higher you go, the better you're going to put, the faster you go, the more charge you're going to put back in when you decelerate. So regenerative braking is just built into these. You let off the gas, it is regenerative braking. It is instead of just wasted energy of coasting, it is putting that energy back. Even when you touch the brake pedal on this, you're activating regenerative braking. So you're going to put charge back into the batteries. There's no wasted stuff. Hybrids as a whole are among the most reliable vehicles out there. The Kia Niro, when it first came out, Consumer Reports called it the most reliable vehicle in their studies. And that's a study, that's not an opinion. So there's that. Since trying electric, I won't go back to ICE. ICE is internal combustion engine. It's just a better driving experience. So yeah, so really quickly, these cars cost more than a regular car. And I want to really quickly address that. I always tell people that people buy a hybrid, a plug-in hybrid, or an electric vehicle for the exact same reason that they buy the muscle car. Nobody needs the V8 muscle car with, 700 horsepower. Nobody needs that. You buy it because you like it. And I like those cars too. There's nothing wrong with that. That being said, you buy a hybrid because you like the way it drives. You buy a PHEV because you like the way it drives. And you certainly buy an EV because you like the way it drives. Our EV has significant amount of power, a very quick car. These cars are geared a little bit more for economy. That car's kind of a mid-range car. This car does, tend to be a little more economical in its feel. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you buy these cars because you like the way they drive. It's not purely an intellectual decision where it's like, oh, it'll save me some money. People buy them because they like them. And that's why people pay a little bit more for them. We want a Hellcat, but reality is we need Neros. Yeah. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is I know there's the environmental shaming of like, oh, I like a V8 car, therefore I can't like one of these. Well, you guys found out a few weeks ago, I happen to drive a pickup truck. I need a pickup truck for some of the things that I do. That being said, there's no compromise with me with liking my pickup truck. I used to have a manual transmission Jeep Wrangler. Love that thing. There's no compromise between liking those and liking these. They're a different thing to like. But I like my pickup truck. I also like my full EV. Sometimes you get these EV people like, oh, you can't drive a pickup truck because it's destroying the world. And that might be the case, but I also can't afford, a pickup truck that doesn't destroy the world. So Keep that in mind that you can like one and like the other. And certainly if you like those fuel guzzling vehicles, having one of these around is great. I almost never drive my truck anymore because I don't need to. How long the Neo takes to charge? We can talk about that. The only concern is cost. If your only concern is cost, drive an older gasoline car. Yeah, that's the other thing. We'll talk about that in a second. There's nothing like da, 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 da. Okay, so let's just talk real quick. Do these have sport modes? Yeah, real quick. So both these two cars, they are set up in default in what they call eco mode. That's the way they come. Tap the gear shift lever towards the driver, and you have towards the driver. I get whatever it is, and you have it in sport mode. The EV has a button which goes between eco, normal, and sport. It actually has an eco plus button as well. If you're really running out of range, that eco plus button kills everything except for the motor. It limits your top speed to whatever you decide to set it at. It's 90 from the factory, and that eco plus. So they do have drive modes, that kind of thing. What was I going to say? Sorry, there was something I was going to jump on real quick, and I just lost my train of thought. Um, Oh, charge times, those kinds of things. Okay. If you're concerned is cost to drive, okay, that's a good point too. If you want the cheapest vehicle, buy something like a Kia Rio. The fuel savings in that and the cost of the car is probably going to be cheapest. If you're into this 20-ish, $25,000 cars and up, then you should start considering hybrids. There are a lot of competitor cars out there that are not as good as this hybrid, and they're the same price. So you get more features in our hybrid car than you would in their car. More features, more space, and certainly half the fuel use. So that's a good reason to look at the Nero Hybrid. Love pulling away on my EV in silence and beating most cars away from the lights. Yeah, the EV alone. Now, this car, again, drives like a normal car, not overly fast, but not slow. 195 foot-pounds of torque. So you got the power there. This car, again, a little bit more powerful electric motor, but drives like a regular car. Maybe a little bit more power than the EV here. The actual or than the hybrid here. The actual EVs are exceptionally quick. Acceleration feels very, very, very quick. Sometimes it feels like it's faster than it is, but they are very, very quick, and you can certainly pull away. The other thing to keep in mind is going half throttle or 3/4 throttle in an electric vehicle is much, much quicker. You need one of those big foam fingers from sporting events to point out the Neros. Yeah, instead of my finger here. Tim's laughing at me. Tim's my sales manager here, so he's on helping me out as well. He's a general manager, excuse me. Anyways, so an EV is going to feel like a sports car. Those two cars are going to feel like regular cars, various level of power. So consider the regular Nero kind of like a 4-cylinder. Consider this one feels a little bit closer to a V6 engine, a little bit more power. And then you've got the EV, which really feels like a powerful car. I mean, I won't call it a V8; it's a totally different drive, but a lot of instant power, instant torque. So there we go. We're 37 minutes in. Like I said, tomorrow we're going to talk about the Sorento. I'm very happy to do a trim line comparison of various things. We've got a Nero EV, EX and SX in stock. We've got just the PHEV EX is in stock. We've got several of them in stock. Neros are several trim lines as well. So we just got this one in. We're going to have some more, I'm sure. But we can talk about trim lines and features and those kind of things. You really get a lot of interesting options. We'll talk one day about why I recommend the Nero SX, why I don't recommend the Nero EX. It might be right for you, and I'm saying if it's right for you, buy it. But if you're just looking at the EX, you really got to take a long look at the Kia Soul short range because you're going to save a little bit of money. You're going to get a lot more features, and we'll talk about why in another video. So hopefully I can earn your subscription. I got 24 people on, 26 likes. I'm pretty cool with that ratio. I want to thank you all for watching, and I hope I can earn, like I said, your subscription because we're going to talk about EVs a lot. We're finally able to stock them. This is a pretty exciting time for us. So we're going to do that. Tomorrow we're talking Sorento, the new 2021. So you can tune in tomorrow at 2 o'clock. A teaching video would be great. I'm still learning things about my soul. Yeah, okay, you know what? We might do a teaching video. So Eric, other people, reach out in the comments below this video. Tell me what you want to learn about these vehicles, and I'll show you. We'll go through the features. So thanks everybody for joining. Feel free to reach out to me, like I said, on Instagram or on YouTube here. I'm certainly happy to know what you want to know or to talk about what you want to know, and we'll just make some videos. We'll make lots of videos. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.